Today's topic is strengthening your competitive position. First, you need to leverage your strengths and look at your core capabilities and decide if you're going to have an offensive strategy or a defensive strategy. And typically the defensive strategies move to where the organizations and the competition or your customers are. In offensive moves, you can create a new product, a new environment. Oftentimes you hear about blue ocean strategy, which is a really good opportunity to create new products and services that we saw when Facebook came alive or the first iPhone came out. Either move requires you to understand your value chain and that you're doing well. So Masood, how do you know, where do you start in creating your strategy?
Well, this is an important topic for strategic management, is starting back a little bit. After you defining your strategy, then you have to look at the market, look at your own strengths and weaknesses and market's opportunities and threats, and decide whether you want to have an offensive or defensive strategy for offering your products to the customers. It's like athletes in a game. Sometimes you have to be in an offensive mode, sometimes you have to be in a defensive mode. Companies like Amazon, and Apple, as you remember, they came to the market and shaped the market the way they wanted to. That's a high risk, and that has a lot of rewards for it. And the companies like Ford, in my opinion, they follow slowly. They are defending their turf. They try to protect their market share, and they're not taking risks in a way that an offensive company with offensive strategy would do.
Okay, and when you think of offensive strategies, I think of companies that have resources. Amazon has resources. Apple has resources. Home Depot. But you also need to look at timing. Decide on where and when you start. And we talk about first movers and followers and late movers. Can you tell me a little bit about what timing has to do with your strategy?
Timing has a lot to do with the strategy. It is important to have a right strategy for entering the market, and I would like to say competitive strategy, but also when you do something is as important as what you do. So the timing is everything. You cannot enter the market sooner or later than you're required to do so. You might lose a window of opportunity that exists for you. So timing is the big deal over here.
So when you look at strategy and you look after timing, what do you think the end game is of strategy?
Of course, the end game is increasing your ROI. Every company is trying to do things to increase their revenues, their profit, and the return on investment for the shareholders, the people who put money in the company. And the end game is your market share, your revenues, and your position in the market, and sustaining that position. That's important. That no company wants to come to the market for a week or two and then disappear. You want to have a strategy and you want to enter the market that sustain your growth and sustain your position for a long run.
Let's talk about the organization's value chain. Could you tell me a little bit about the value chain and maybe how it works in the organization you work for?
Sure. As you know, well, Jackie, value chain and supply chain can be used interchangeably. Dr. Michael Porter from Harvard introduced value chain as when you add value to your product, between when you receive that product all the way when you ship it out to the customers internally, and he called it value chain. And supply chain is from raw material all the way to the end game when the customer buys it from you. That's the supply chain. We can use it interchangeably, but it is important for any company to have a portion of the value chain or supply chain, define their center of gravity, which is based on their core competencies, and understand to protect that and understand it and protect it, because that's the most important element of their success. If they outsource it, for example, they lose that edge over the market. So, and companies having that kind of a value chain under their domain, they like to grow as they get more cash or they see there's a limitation in the market. Then we go to the concept of horizontal growth or vertical growth. Horizontal growth, as you know, means you're just not happy with the geographical location you are and you want to expand, and we're going to talk about it more later in the maybe foreign markets, maybe international markets at big time. And if you grow within your value chain or supply chain, we call them vertical integration. For example, if Ford buys the dealerships, it's called vertical forward integration.
Right.
After Ford buys the companies who supply like tires or transmission to them, it's called vertical backward integration, because you go backward and buy your own supplier. But all these actions at the end is trying to improve your revenues, your market share, and the return on
Overall
investment.
strategy.